Christian parenting.
Hey friends, welcome back to Pardon the Mess. I'm your host, Courtney DeFeo, and it is January. And if you're like me, you're going in hopeful, like this is the year. This is the year I'm going to feel better. This is the year I'm going to get things figured out. I'm going to read my Bible past like the second week of January, or I'm going to go on a walk more than twice. But our hormones and our health is a conversation I'm having with almost every mom that I see. And in fact, I met one of you at the beach this summer and I said, what kind of podcast episodes would you like? And she said, you know what we're talking about? How horrible we feel. And so I thought the best guest we could have on today is Dr. Edie Wadsworth. And the reason I love her, and she is a physician and she is a podcaster and a wife and a mom and a grandmother and an author and all those things. But really what drew me to her is she is someone that is in her 50s that feels better now than she has felt in decades. And that gets my attention. And so I wanted to have her on because I feel like it can be so confusing. There's so much information out there. And so we talk about all the things, and it's why it's kind of long. But I wanted to just get her opinion on supplements and perimenopause and all the things, energy, sleeping. So you will love it. At the end, don't miss the last few minutes. I ask her some of the questions that you have, like frozen shoulder. Did y'all know that's even a side effect of perimenopause? And then at the end, I sure do tear up because she is so encouraging. So if you feel like you don't feel great about yourself, and it feels completely overwhelming, hang in there and at least go to the end and just hear what she says directly to your heart and mind about giving it another go and taking care of yourself. And the reason I wanted to start here this year, for the beginning of the year, is because if we go into all the parenting things on Pardon the Mess about just how to raise kids in a Christian home, and it's all about the kids, which is important, we have to have the energy and the health to be able to do that. And so I know it affects my mood when I don't feel great, and I know it impacts the way that I show up as a mom, and I know I'm not alone. So enjoy Dr. Edie Wadsworth. She mentions a ton of great resources which can be found in today's show notes. Enjoy. Good morning, Edie. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm so happy to be here. We were just chatting before we got started that we've met each other in person, but it's been like
a
2,000
long time. You're always so stylish. Where does your go to? Like, where does one get a sweater? Does the sweater with the hearts and the stuff coming out, are those two things combined? Did you just put that together? What's happening over there?
I sure did. And I've got on red tights, sister. So
yes.
I'm
Have you always been that fine with colors?
In this way, I'm like, I do this with furniture too. I'm like, I like that from there and that from there, and let's put it together and let them have a baby and see what happens. So if I never in my whole entire life have bought a set of furniture.
Oh my God, you're like Pippi Longstocking. Remember that girl?
I am like Pippi Longstocking. Yes. Crazy like that.
Punky Brewster. Remember that show? But
Yep.
you pull it off so well. I always look at pictures of your house and I'm like, I need to be more brave just to say, you know what? Like, I think if there's a purple door behind you, what's happening?
The doors are purple. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to wallpaper this room mauve stripes with purple doors. Listen, whatever you like, it matches. Trust me.
What does your husband think? Is he like, he didn't knew what he was getting into, or is he like, whatever?
I know the funny thing is, he will sometimes like take a second look, never says a thing. He's like a stoic Midwestern man. And so, I make him a good dinner and he's happy as a clam. He doesn't care. Yeah, I will tell you, I just wallpapered my bathroom, this crazy pink pattern, and he walks by and then just goes to the bedroom. He's like, this is what she does. My kids are, okay, so Stevie and I have a Brady bunch. We've been married 25 years. In 2025, it'll be 25 years.
Wow.
And we have his, mine, and ours. So he had 4. I had 2. We have 2 together, and then we adopted Thomas. So we have 9 altogether.
Oh, my goodness.
And 2 grandbabies and 1 grandbaby on the way. We're getting ready to take all of our kids to Park City to ski. So yeah, we have a big old family. It's so fun.
I love it. Wait, where do y'all live? I feel like there's a lake or water involved.
Yeah, we live on a lake in East Tennessee.
Okay.
Right between the Smoky Mountains and the Clinch Mountains, we have it's a beautiful, tiny little town called Bean Station, and it's just gorgeous here. So
okay, and you're a wake surfer. I saw. So proud
I
of you.
learned how to wake surf. like 2 years ago when I was 52, I'm like, Stevie, you need to get a boat that we can surf on because I don't want to go fast like on wakeboarding.
No.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to try that anymore. And wake surfing, you're going really slow. So I thought, well, this is going to be fun and easy. And it took me like 2 summers to get the hang of it. But yeah.
Okay. My parents live on a lake, and my big, you can do hard things is something Sissy Goff taught me. And I was like, you know what? This summer I'm learning to drive the boat, and we have a wake boat. And I did it. And I was so proud. And so my youngest loves it. Like she could wake surf all the days of our lives. My older one is not as into it, but she made herself do it again. And we just went out, the three of us. And it was my favorite day of last summer, watching my oldest conquer it finally after years and years of trying and like getting comfortable. And then me conquering the boat and not blowing it up and like being able to pull him up. At one point, Larson was so sweet, my little one. He was like, at first, like, you're doing good, but something's off. And I realized that I had the wake on the wrong side of the boat. So she's just.
That is something off. She's being very kind, Courtney.
She was like, I don't know. I'm just really proud of you.
It doesn't feel right. It's kind of very turbulent.
That's amazing.
Well, I will say this, though, because my husband grew up on lakes and driving boats. Learning how to drive the boat, I think, was harder than learning how to surf because he's very particular, that one is. And so I finally got the hang of it, too. But yeah, it's
no joke.
Fun.
So fun. You're inspiring me to get out there and try it myself. So
you should, Mama.
Let me tell you why. There's a million reasons I love you. One, your style. But I have followed you for years back in the blogging days. And you're spunky. You are so real. And you're like the nicest friend that has this neat balance to me of like tough love, but also immense grace and understanding. And that's how you approach every conversation. It's like, you can do this. Like, I listened to a podcast that you did a couple years ago with Ruth about weight loss, and I'll link to it. But you said someone that says never, like, I've tried losing weight so many times. And you were like, this might be it, sister. Like, this might be the one. And so I just appreciate the way, because this isn't your main gig. Like, we'll talk about that, but you really do coaching and life change and that kind of stuff. So tell us just thank you for the way you approach your work and when you write and when you speak in your Instagram. It's always so encouraging. And I've been following you for years. So delighted that you're here.
Such an honor. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, back people up. You are a doctor. So I wanted to have you on for lots of reasons, but you've also just been through your own health journey. So back people up to kind of your background and how in the world you're sitting here with me on a podcast talking hormones and health.
I know. I should probably be in a medical office somewhere, but I'm so happy that I'm home talking to you on a podcast. I started as a medical doctor years ago and practiced medicine. I did family medicine and practiced for about 10 years. And I had 4 kids at home at the time. And my husband is also a physician, and it just felt like somebody needed to be home. And my heart was really for one of my younger daughters was struggling in school. And I thought, you know what? I need to come home for a while. And so I gave up my job as a family doctor and ended up homeschooling my kids.
Oh.
And then, it was really cool. I was a homeschooler for 5-7 years. They went back and forth. They would go to school for a while and then they would, come back home.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. And then that's when I found blogging and started blogging. And we went through a lot of tough things. We lost our house to a house fire. And I already had been struggling kind of with my health and mental health stuff, emotional health, physical health. But after that house fire, I just couldn't recover. About 2 years after that, my health completely crashed. I ended up just miserable. I had a lot of inflammatory arthritis. My thyroid crashed. I had put on 35 pounds. I was just miserable. I was really depressed. I had had a really rough childhood that I had never, healed from. Just everything kind of came to a head and showed up in my body. And it was right about the same time that all my friends were probably going through perimenopause. I didn't have that name for it back then. It was like the perfect storm of everything going wrong at once. And I had practiced medicine. And the funny thing is, when I was practicing medicine, my main thing that I did for people was help them make change. If they wanted to lose weight or they wanted to quit smoking or, they wanted to make some kind of health change, that was my sweet spot, especially women and women's hormones. But when it's yourself, it's like, I kind of knew what to do, but I wasn't doing any of it. And
well, do you think their layer of that is because you're a parent too? I know for me, I will take care of them all day long, and then I keep putting myself on the back burner. Do you think that's common for moms?
100%. Because, yeah. And I was in the throes of it then, like really busy home life, 4 kids. Yeah, I think that is a huge part of it. And I don't know. I just knew that I actually went to see one of my partners. And I said, like, okay, something's got to give. Like this, I'm miserable. And because modern medicine has its limitations, it's amazing in a lot of ways. But because it has its limitations, and I ended up being told like, well, this is just the way it is and take all this medicine. And I was like, oh, heck no. Like I know what it's like to be my age and be on a bunch of stuff. And I didn't want to do that. And you're right. I'm just kind of spunky enough that I started doing a bunch of research and fell into a beautiful rabbit hole of functional medicine and natural health and ended up on, what would become really a 10-year journey of relearning everything I thought I knew about health and nutrition and taking good care of ourselves and how to heal our hormones, in the most natural way possible.
I love it.
And so, yeah, it has been quite a journey, and it's been interesting I've been on both sides of it. I've been on like the patient side of it where I'm trying to figure it out for myself, and on the side of it where I kind of came through and have found a lot of things that really work, and then helping other women. Because here's the thing, the reason I'm so passionate about women our age, women in midlife, is I feel like this happens to us. We go through this and it takes us out.
Yeah.
It takes us out.
Yeah.
And it's this time in life when we have so much wisdom to give, like so much still left in the tank, still to share and give and mentor people. But this kind of thing takes us out. And I'm like, oh, I got to help our women like find their voice again and find their energy again and really step into this new role that we have, at this phase of life, which is different than when you have little kids. And
so I think you touched on like, you think it's just age and you're like, well, I was fit. Oh, I did have a brain that thought clearly. Oh, I did use to sleep. And you're like, oh, I'm just aging. And so watching you like get up on a wakeboard and it's not all about the pounds, but watching you just like conquer hard things and feel the strongest you felt has totally motivated me. And I told you, like, I don't want this to turn into an hour-long counseling session, which I wish it could, because I'm like, Edie, I have so much going on with my migraines and the medicine. It's like, so I think for every mom listening, whether they're in their 30s or 40s, it can be a complicated web. So I think just to give people grace, it's like super overwhelming. And then there's not enough time right now to cover all the things. So we're going to scratch the surface of hormones and health. And then I really want y'all to go follow her and just see the things she's talking about. And I will try to link to as many resources as we can. What is perimenopause? Like, I think for some people, like you said, we're like, I already had babies. I've already had periods. I knew one day I was going to have menopause and my period would stop. Hallelujah. But nobody really talked about this perimenopause. Is that how you say it? Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, for the first thing that I think is that it doesn't like spring up in a vacuum. So what I have been learning over the past 10 years is that hormone health at any age is such a gauge of your vitality for a woman. And so I could have seen signs of this before that, like things aren't functioning that well before that. And then you hit this age where your hormones really do start to change. And if you don't have these practices in place with how you eat and how you move and how you deal with stress and how you process emotions, like it has been a lesson for me that we don't live in a vacuum. And, one of the books that I read way back when was The Body Keeps Score. And I really realized for me, it was a lot of stuff from my past that I never really dealt with and processed. And I had these patterns of, sort of being in the world that weren't that healthy, such a people pleaser, always overachieving, trying to earn my worth, like literally maxing my body out, stressed out to the max so that I could do some form of like pleasing the whole entire world, which never works. So I went into perimenopause with all of that. And if you go into it, it's already, some change because your hormones are fluctuating. But I went into it way behind the 8 ball. And I think what I've realized is that there's no real shortcut. God created our function in a certain way.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore that. And I was ignoring that for years.
Well, how do you know?
So,
Okay, so there's three. I know nothing about medical things, but I know enough to be dangerous. So when you go to and love my doctors, I love
yeah,
my general doctors. But
yeah.
what I've experienced is when you go in, they look at blood work or whatever, and they're like, you're in range, right? And that could be like the low. So there's three hormones, correct?
It could mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So, but they're looking at three hormones, right? Estrogen,
Yeah,
testosterone, and progesterone. So then
yeah,
you go to like a specialist or a holistic person or a endocrinologist, and they're like, oh, you're in range, but you're at the low end. You're tanking. You should feel
yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
And so is that the first step? Because I think that was the first time somebody's like, I mean, how do you know your hormone health without getting blood work? Do you just go based off of the symptoms? How do you know you're in that stage?
Yeah, I think for a lot of women, you'll start to have mood changes, which we can have already anyways. You will start to have sleep changes. For me, sleep was huge, and I
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
tended to be not the best sleeper. And then I started waking up all the time. Sex drive. And again, you're exactly right when you say that people can just like, I went and got checked. And
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what it's like to age. Well, what I realized is no, it isn't, because I feel better than I did then now, and I'm 10 years older.
Wow.
So, I think that really starting to pay attention to our bodies as women, we're so good at ignoring our bodies and just
Yeah.
trudging through.
Yeah.
We're so good at ignoring ourselves. I had basically done that for so many years, not paid attention to my body, not paid attention to, again, I was kind of like this overachiever, go, 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 do the
Yeah.
next thing, addicted to adrenaline, and then just would wear my body out, not paying attention to rest and recovery and what I needed, and, learning to give myself what I needed, like I would one of my kids.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was, sort of compounded by all of that. And so the hormones themselves, if you look at the values of the hormones, that tells you something. But I think a way more holistic view of how are you feeling, how are you sleeping, like really paying attention to yourself tells you way more than any lab value can tell you. So
Yeah.
can it be helpful to get the labs? Yes. But you probably already know if things aren't right.
Right.
And so many of us have had this experience where we're like, I don't feel like myself, I'm not sleeping well, I just don't have my same energy level or whatever. And we go and get checked and go, well, everything looks normal.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I was told that. And then when I started digging into so I would that just gave me permission to keep ignoring myself. And then when I started digging into it, I'm like, even as a physician, I had told people that.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're trained. And I had never learned anything about nutrition. And I didn't know the amazing magical benefits of really moving your body and getting strong and the mental and emotional resilience, like all of those pieces, I was approaching it from a very pieces and parts.
Right.
And I think we have to learn to look at ourselves as one whole human being.
That's right.
And really start paying attention to ourselves and paying attention to the symptoms, because what I started doing then was really just all the holistic things. I changed my diet. I started training my body like I was training for something. Like I do not, it's not that I never miss a day at the gym, but it is such a core part of my life now. I can't even imagine it.
Well, talk to us about the medical benefits of the muscle mass, right? So
yeah,
as we age in women, it's important for us to strength
there's
train.
probably nothing that you can do better for your hormones than to build lean muscle, to get really long. Nothing that you can do more for longevity, for sure. Longevity is tied to muscle mass.
Okay.
So we need to be lifting heavy things and really moving our bodies and making ourselves resilient and strong. It's really important as women. And the thing of it is, say, for instance, take something like osteoporosis, which people can get on board with. They're like, yes, take this medicine. Don't let your bones get brittle. Well, the best way to build bone mass is to build muscle mass.
Wow.
So lots of women could be off their medicine for that if they were just strength training and building muscle, because muscle is a biologically active tissue. It's one of the main problems for all of us women is not that our female hormones are out of whack. It's that our insulin is out of whack, which can cause your female hormones to be out of whack. So insulin resistance is really common And here's how you know you have it. Your waist circumference is bigger than your hip circumference. So if you're carrying extra weight in your midsection, which all of us are at this age, right?
Present, yeah.
Then you have some insulin resistance. And that is at the root of almost every chronic medical disease in America. And it makes perimenopause and menopause way worse. So the first line of defense is to deal with the insulin resistance. And how you do that is you stop eating sugar and build muscle.
Hold on, let me drink my coffee with my creamer. Keep going.
At least lower sugar and build muscle, because we have a diet that is, what happens is when you have a diet that's centered around carbs, which most of us do, those carbs over time make your insulin high, because your insulin level has to raise up in order to bring those carbs into your cells. So over time, what happens is it can't keep up. So the insulin creeps up and up and up. You can have your blood sugar checked and your blood sugar is fine, but the insulin is really high trying to keep up with the blood sugar. And when your insulin is high, you carry extra body weight. You can't lose weight no matter what. I remember feeling this way. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I cannot lose weight. That's what happens when your insulin is high.
Okay.
And you're hungry all the time. You're thirsty all the time. Your sleep is disrupted. You're inflamed. You just feel inflamed. And
those are two things we can do and that don't cost money. We can cut sugar, which who wants to do that, but it works. And even if we can't get to a gym, we can do building some muscle mass at home.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. And moving your body, like all of those things are going to lower your insulin level. So when I'm getting ready to make my lunch, I ask myself, is this lunch going to spike my insulin? And you can Google what foods spike insulin, what foods drive up your blood sugar, drive up your insulin. So I just try to prioritize protein. It's not that I never have carbs or sugar. Obviously I do. You would look at what I eat and go, oh, I could do that. I prioritize protein. So I get the protein first. And even if you're having the carbs and having some sugar, if you eat that protein first, it satiates your body. There's this theory called the protein theory that if you don't get enough protein in a day, you'll just be hungry all day.
Yeah.
And so prioritizing protein. So eggs, I eat eggs a lot. I eat eggs, bacon, beef patties. I just get that protein in, protein shakes, protein bars sometimes. And then if you want something else, you've got a little wiggle room because you've got that protein in that satiates you. And the other thing is fat. We've been told that, we've been told to eat low fat our whole entire lives.
Yep.
And that is just wrong.
Right.
We need fat. You have to have fat to make your hormones. So, you got a whole generation of women who are not eating enough protein and not eating enough fat. So their insulin is high and they can't make female hormones because you need fat. And so we're exactly opposite.
Yes.
Of what we should be. So I eat high fat. I eat real butter. I drink real cream. I like the fat that is in the food, olive oil, avocados. So I'm always asking myself, can I get some protein? Can I get some fat?
Yep.
And then that's very satiating. And you start to feel better instantly. I started doing this 10 years ago. I had my 10-year anniversary of my health totally crashing this year. And I started making little changes like that. And over time, I started feeling better literally almost right away.
Wow.
And I just, started doing CrossFit, started, prioritizing muscle. Because here's the thing, I'm thankful we have modern medicine and there's lots of things they can help us with. But the current medical model succeeds if we're sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't, as a physician, I want to create health, not manage sickness.
Wow.
And our whole model is to manage sickness. That's what I was told when I had all these things wrong with me. And I'm telling you, 10 years later, I don't have inflammatory arthritis. I don't have thyroid like I did before. I don't have all of the issues with my female hormones. And I do take a lot of supplements. So I will say that.
Okay.
But I supplement things after I have had a really good diet, lots of good food. And then I supplement on top of that.
Well, that's what I'm finding with mine is because of some of my health issues and migraines, like I'm put on medicine, then there's a side effect and then there's more medicine and it just keeps adding up. And I'm like, I'm going up when I need to be going down. And so it's super frustrating, but I'm so glad you're saying that as a physician to say like, the model is not working and we're thankful.
Yes.
I am thankful for an emergency room. I'm thankful for certain medications, but I do want to start this holistic journey for myself to go like, I think I'm stronger or more capable than I know. And I'm always looking for one doctor or one lab test or one person to give me the quick fix. And it really comes down to like me doing the work, saying no
Yes.
to the things and paying it, like you said at the beginning, pay attention to my body of what, like
Yes.
when I sleep, I am so much more clear in the head. Like I was on progesterone for a little bit and I
Yeah.
went away, but now I need to get back. But I was like, oh my word, I forgot what it feels like to sleep. Like I
I
was taking
know.
magnesium at night, but they added progesterone in. And I was like, to sleep through the night, like it's been years since I've slept through the
Yes.
night. And so you forget those things. Let me go back for a second. So technically, perimenopause are the years leading up to menopause. And what I've
Yes.
heard is when you've not had your period for a year. Is that when you're technically in menopause? Is that
Yeah.
right?
So menopause is like one day.
Okay.
It's the year after you've stopped having your period. So
Okay.
all of that time frame before that
Like 10 years.
is like 10 years for a lot of women. Yeah, is perimenopause. And
Okay.
what happened for me is that I was close to menopause until I started all of this. And I started getting my periods back.
My
Like for
gosh.
10 years.
Oh
It's
my God.
crazy town. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up pregnant again. If I'm not careful. I'm like anti-aging so crazy that I'm going to end up pregnant again. I didn't. But anyways, that is how powerful though
Wow.
those things are. That's what I'm saying. Like aligning yourself with how God made you, feeding yourself. Like think of the way people fed themselves 100 years ago. Think of the way people slept. Think of how much less stress they had. They had periods of crazy stress sometimes, but they didn't have this chronic daily stress that we,
Okay.
create for ourselves or,
Yeah.
live with. Think of how they took care of themselves. They had like old tinctures. They did what I'm doing, old little tinctures. My kids give me the hardest time. I'm always mixing up a little, here, take me, little help you like an old Appalachian granny. But that's how they, took care of themselves. And they took it because there was nowhere for them to turn. They didn't have a CVS on every corner and a doctor's office every 5 blocks and a hospital, like they took it upon themselves. And one of the most powerful things that we can do is decide on purpose. It's like a mindset thing. I am strong and fit and smart, and I can figure this out. I will pay attention to my body. I will figure this out. I am my best advocate because we farm out all of this to somebody in a white coat.
Yeah.
And it just, like, I am such a big advocate of like doing your research and figuring it out for yourself. And the crazy thing is, even after all of this, I got this really weird sinusitis when I was learning how to wake surf. And I could not, I went to the doctor. I finally broke down. I never go to the doctor anymore. I finally broke down and had to go be seen. And she did I have a holistic physician and she's amazing. And she did a bunch of lab work and I was having an off the charts reaction to dairy. And I had tried all these antibiotics and I couldn't get it to heal. So I went off dairy, off gluten, off sugar completely for almost 16 weeks. The infection healed. I lost like 10 more pounds. Like it was so amazing. And I'm like, look at the power of the body. And it was not adding anything. It was just listening to my body and taking away things that inflamed me. And I was slowly able to add back some like cream in my coffee and all of that. But I haven't gone back to like a lot of yogurt and, and just making that one change, like really cutting dairy down a lot. I mean, I had already lost some weight, but I mean, it took 10 pounds off, which is huge at our age. I got you.
Do you have a child who struggles with a specific subject, or do you have a child who's ahead and not getting challenged enough in the classroom? For either of those kids and anyone in between, you should go check out IXL Learning. IXL Learning is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum and your child's classroom learning. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child, meeting them exactly where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to be curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. And the best part is, IXL is so easy for parents. One site gets you all you need, and IXL customizes learning for each child and their needs. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, making it simple to find activities for the exact skills you are covering. And IXL offers offers instant feedback and explanations of new topics as kids use the program. So you can feel confident that your kids will gain an understanding of the skills they are learning. Make an impact on your child's learning by getting iExcel now. And Pardon the Mess listeners can get an exclusive 20% off iExcel membership when they sign up today at iExcel.com/today. Visit iExcel.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Okay, let me ask you about this. So if you go to your medical doctor and they're like, you're fine, and then you are too overwhelmed to do it all yourself, and is there a type of doctor that you're like, I know I'm off, I need someone to test my hormones? Because blood work will at some level reveal what's up and what's down, right? So is it an endocrinologist? If they do want to see someone that would take a more holistic view, like, how do you even find that person? Like, how do we get you in our lives if we're not spunky enough to go wrestle all this down ourselves? Who could help?
Well, the craziest thing is I live in the tiniest town of anybody I know personally, and I've been able to find it around here. I already had just done a bunch of online research. I ended up doing, I did some courses. I ended up, like about 10 years ago, I found Young Living, kind of a holistic company. And when you find some products that you love, and then there's usually a culture around it that is like people like you trying to get healthy. And that's what happened for me. But then I was able to even find, people in my town, or it's not even in my little town, but it's just like the next town over. So I guarantee you that for most people, you've got somebody around you. You just haven't.
What do they do? What's their office called?
Functional medicine, holistic medicine, like a more holistic approach. And a lot of times these will be nurse practitioners, chiropractors, sometimes DOs, like the functional medicine doctor I go to. She has full prescribing rights, but she's a DO and she's amazing. And she does both traditional medicine and holistic medicine. When she sees somebody like me, she's like, I know she's going to want the most holistic approach to this, Yeah. And, but it starts with a mindset of, I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm fit, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, really, the mindset
is huge.
It's so huge.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we have been dealt this diagnosis, like I was, and we're like, well, I guess I just have Hashimoto's. I guess I'll just take this thyroid thing forever. I guess I have inflammatory arthritis. We don't question it. We don't do our own research. We don't dig into like, what else could this be? And so for me, it's just been a journey of like, no, I want to figure this out in the most holistic way. I want to get strong and healthy. I want to, be able to do the work that I do in the world. I want the energy. I'm going to tell you what motivates me right now is I have 2 of the most amazing angel grandbabies that you've ever seen in your life. So much of it for me, the reason I go to the gym every day is so I can get down on the floor and play with them and run and dance. And like, when they're old enough, I want them to be able to come to Grammys and that we can go wake surfing together. Like, you got to find something that really motivates you.
So
and
good.
I'm past the age, kind of, I guess it matters to us all to a certain extent, but I don't train anymore for what I look like.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be a 20-year-old. And so I make peace with, I want to be strong and fit and have a lot of energy.
Yeah. So important.
You gotta, find a why that motivates you too.
Yes. Tell me about hormone replacement therapy. Like, say you figure out that you're really, really low in one. I've had friends that are like, I just got on testosterone and it's changed my life. Like, so talk to me about like adding those hormones back. And I know there's all kinds of ways to do that.
and then versus supplements? Or, what are your thoughts on both of those?
I was able to do supplements for the most of the 10 years that I was sort of in the perimenopause period. And a few things that really helped me were, and there's lots of different forms that you can get these in, but pregnenolone and DHEA are both precursor hormones to all the female hormones. And so I took those for years. I did progesterone cream. So I did do some bioidentical hormones. So progesterone cream, I did for a while progesterone that kind of dissolved under the tongue. You're right about it's usually progesterone that's suffering in most women because this is like could be a long and complicated thing, but long story short, we're exposed to a lot of toxic estrogen in our environment. Estrogen is in a lot of food that we eat. A lot of plastics, microplastics contain xenoestrogens. So there are a lot of estrogen mimicking hormones that can make our estrogen levels sort of stay higher, even though it's not the best form of estrogen. And then your body likes this balance of progesterone to estrogen. So when you get this overly exaggerated kind of high estrogen level, and then your progesterone is hanging up down here, it's usually what women are missing early on. It's progesterone. Okay. So I have a natural form of it that I take. We can link to it in the show notes. It's kind of an oil. I usually just put it on my skin at night. Okay. And I use that along with those supplements for literally years before I had to do anything else. So I think that you definitely can. But now, when you need them, don't hesitate. So get to somebody who can get you some bioidentical hormones, but they can be life-changing, and make you feel like, oh, okay, this is what I was missing.
Yes, good.
I'm a big fan of that if you need it. I just haven't needed very much of it because I love supplements. I love giving the body a physiologic dose of something, which is kind of what supplements can do. Okay. And again, like you were mentioning, magnesium, there are some non-negotiable supplements that I think can really help, and magnesium is one of them. Okay. So, very faithful to those hormone supplements and to my magnesium. And when I'm doing that, along with that little, progesterone oil that I use, I can keep my levels pretty darn good. Even I'm 54 and still am not on full hormone replacement because I feel good on what I'm doing.
Okay. I asked for questions like a dummy and got a bazillion. So we don't have time to go through them, but I'm going to send these to you. If you ever, in all your spare time, I know you have so much ability to help in this area, but it's like if you did a Q&A or an Instagram live, people are hunting for all this stuff. Two people asked about frozen, the shoulder situation. What happens with our shoulders? Frozen shoulder.
Well, the thing of it is, remember I talked about insulin resistance?
Right.
A lot of joint issues are just insulin resistance in the joint.
Okay.
Including something like that. So I would say that for every woman listening to this podcast, you have to get your metabolic health in order, which is the insulin thing we talked about, which is you've got to weight train and lower your sugar so that insulin can lower. Insulin is very inflammatory, so you get a lot of inflammation in those joints. I can tell when it's the holiday time and I'm having more sugar than usual, my joints tell me first.
Wow.
I'm so used to not having any joint inflammation anymore.
Wow.
And I'm like, I've had more sugar than I would normally have.
Wow.
During the holiday. So that would be the first thing. And then obviously, anything that you do that reduces inflammation will help with that.
Okay.
But movement, people think oh, I have this sore joint, I shouldn't move it. Almost always, the treatment for something where your movement is restricted is to keep moving.
Yeah.
I mean, there are exceptions to that, but I think we're always oh, I don't want to move it because of, whatever. But get to a good functional therapist and figure out how to keep those joints moving, keep your body moving. And as you're addressing the core of the problem, which is usually inflammation, which is made lots worse by high insulin level.
Okay.
They call it, metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance, but I would encourage everybody, do some research about it. They say that in America, 90% of us are insulin resistant. And if we don't do something about it, we'll continue to have joint issues. That's what causes heart disease. That's what causes high cholesterol. All of those at their root have insulin resistance as the main problem.
Oh, so good. What do we do if you're like me and you get super overwhelmed? You're like, I hear it's important, but I just move on to the next day. Last night was laying in bed because my progesterone was gone and I need to work out and I need to walk more and like all that. So how do we just start something? Like, talk to the girl that's a serial quitter like myself. That's like, it's too much. I'm never going to figure this out.
Here's what you have to do. It starts with your mindset. And I tell my clients this all the time. We use so many things as evidence against ourselves. I never follow through. I start things and I don't finish them. I tried this before. I'm never going to be able to do that. Secretly, if we were to get underneath what a lot of us think, that's what we think. And we look at somebody who, seems to be having success and go, well, it's only for people like that. And I just want to encourage you and myself and all of our people that what I found to be true when I was practicing medicine is that it takes 7 or 8 or 12 or 14 times. And every time we're learning something, we're figuring something out about ourselves. So don't tell yourself this is never going to happen. I'm one step closer to it happening. I used to do this even with something simple like planning my year. I would buy every planner and then by March, I wasn't filling it out. It's easy to tell yourself, I'm just never going to be a person who uses a planner. But I just kept going and kept at it. And then one year I made it to June. And then one year I made it to October. And then after like 7 years, I'm like, oh, I am a person who plans her day every day. And the same is true with whatever change we want to make. You're learning something every time. So I just get as excited as I could be about starting over. And I don't tell myself that I didn't do it 12 times before. I go, no, I'm going to learn something so valuable this time. This might be the time that it clicks, that it really takes, that I figure this out for myself.
Yeah.
And that kind of a powerful mindset will take you so far because we sabotage ourselves when we say, well, it's never going to work and we have all this evidence. Well, it didn't work last time. And now I got this problem. And now there's this. Instead of believing like, no, I'm learning something every time that I try this. And now I know this that I didn't know before. I've also been a huge advocate of just getting myself support. So maybe you hire a coach, you hire a trainer, maybe you get a partner where you say, look, I want to do this. And would you partner with me and do this for the next 90 days or 2 months or whatever? So my first encouragement would be to not quit on yourself. And when you do quit on yourself, you just next day you go, okay, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset can really help. And yes, I do believe that one of the things that I did last year, by the way, that almost anybody can do is I doubled my step count. So I'm like, okay, I'm already going to the gym, but I'm still kind of not seeing exactly the results that I want to see. And I realized that I wasn't getting enough baseline movement because I do this all day. I work from home. I coach people. I sit in this chair. And I started walking everywhere. I would go up and down my stairs just to pick up random things. I would park way out, at Walmart and walk.
Wow.
As soon as I would take my lunch, I would go for a walk. I just started adding little pieces of walking in, doubled my step count. It's made huge difference in my energy, in my body shape, like everything. So
that
almost
we can
everybody
do.
can walk. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so everybody's going to want to leave here and be like, great, can you be my best friend? Can I call you? What's your cell phone number? So I will point them to your site, but what are you offering right now? How can we engage with the resources you have? Tell us.
Yes. Well, let me tell you 2 things. I think the most important book to read is Why We Get Sick. The subtitle is The Hidden Epidemic at the Root of Most Chronic Disease and How to Fight It.
Okay.
He talks about hormones in there.
Okay.
There's another really good one by Jason Fung called The Obesity Code.
Okay.
And I will send you the link to the hormone book that I love. I'm not seeing the exact title on here, but I'll send it to you. So those are really important. And okay, a couple of things. I have a life coaching membership for Christian women called Life Mentoring School. We open 4 times a year, and every time before we open, we have like a 3-day workshop.
Okay.
And the 3-day workshop is January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's coming up. The registration so by the time this podcast is out, we may be past that.
Yeah, we'll just have missed it.
You will just have missed it. But here's what you can do. You can still go register for it. You can just watch the replays.
Okay.
But it's called Made for More. And it is so inspiring. I do it every year. It will give you, I think, the motivation that you need to get back on track. And we can include for your people a special link for that workshop so that they can get to it. It's $7. Anybody can do it. And we'll just give them a link so that they can do it, even if it's January 15th or whatever.
Okay.
So that workshop, I think, is such an accessible thing for everybody. And we'll give you
$7 we can do.
a kick in the pants. Yep. A loving kick in the pants, Courtney.
Okay.
Because the thing of it is, let me just say this, because this is really important. You can't change where you are until you are willing to be where you are. And what I had to do when I was at this phase of my life where everything felt like it was a downward snowball, it was going the wrong way, I was miserable, is I had to acknowledge that, like, I can see how I got here. I've been through a lot. I've been a warrior mama. In my body, I bear that.
Yeah.
And I think that compassion for ourselves is such a powerful place to start. Thanking our bodies for all that they've done to get us here, not despising them, not wishing they were different, but going, listen, it's been a rough patch.
Yeah.
I remember telling myself that so many times, like, it's been a rough patch.
Yeah.
And let's have some compassion.
Yeah.
And from that place of love and compassion that God gave me this body, I do want to honor it. And I do want to live according to the way He made me. So I'm just willing to be humble and learn. Listen, nobody had to humble themselves more than a physician going, what weird techniques these holistic people have. Like, I just had to humble myself and go, I'm willing to relearn. I'm willing to say I don't know one thing about nutrition after graduating from medical school. So, we got to humble ourselves, be patient and kind to ourselves, and be willing to do the work that's required to get to the place we really want to get to, and believe that we can. And I just started believing that I could do it.
It is so good. Now I'm actually crying because it's like, we need that. And I think, can you encourage the moms that are like, I mean, I battle as a Christian going like, I am worth it. Like, and like my worth is not in my weight. And so I'm so happy today that you talked about it's more about health and nutrition and feeling well to be with your grandkids and being able to go on the hike and all that, because I am so far past wanting to look 20. Like, I have no interest in it. And I see a lot of moms obsess over that and get into a really dangerous place. And I'm really concerned for our daughters right now and what they're seeing in a culture that we won't talk about with some medicine that's really made me nervous. But so talk to us from a Christian perspective of like, that even if you're there or you're not at your goal weight, that God can still use you, that you are still worthy. You know what I mean? Like, I think let's end there if you can.
Yes. And the thing of it is, I struggled with this so long in my life. When I look back on it, I think the only reason I went to medical school is because I had had such a hard childhood and I wanted to prove that I was worthy. And I get, like, I literally tormented my body during those years, never slept, go, achieve. And I got to the end of that and went, oh, that doesn't do it either. Like, we do just have to agree with God that no matter what we've been through, no matter where we find ourselves, no matter what weight we are, no matter, like me, I ended up as a physician with all of these medical problems, no matter what, we are beloved by our Father. He loves us.
Yeah.
And He doesn't need us to change one bit for that to be true.
Yeah.
And from that place of truly accepting that and really cherishing this Father that we have, who loves us, who created us, who called us His beloved, who made us the crown of creation, who gave us this beautiful job to be life givers, to be encouragers and mentors and teachers and leaders, that He loves us, and that is enough. And listen, the mandate He gave me in my life to do the things I've done at every different weight and health that there can be.
Yeah.
And I just know that my own experience of my life is different now.
Yeah.
When I have really learned to accept that.
Yeah.
My own experience is just so much contentment. When I was going through my medical stuff last year, I just had to really go back to that. I'm not defined by if I'm the picture of health at every second of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't define my impact in the world. It doesn't define how I love people and how I show up.
Yeah.
And I do think it's really important. And we have to get that from the right place. And we have to not get that from our job, our title, our weight, our station in life or whatever. And when we get that from the right place, from the one who made us, then it does free us up to say, and also, I do want to have energy and be at my healthiest. And I do want to play with these grandbabies. And I do want to say yes when my husband wants to go wake surfing. And I do want to go hiking. And I do want to, so they both can be true. And we don't have to pit one against the other. And I think that is, what I've learned to embrace, that I'm still going to have seasons where things are going to go wrong. And I'm not, I'm going to have issues sometimes. And also, how can I take the best care of myself?
That's right.
You call it whatever you want. People are like against self-care, but I do believe that self-care is a form of stewardship.
Yeah.
And how we take care of this body matters because he gave it to us and it's the only one we have. And they say, I do believe this is true. If you don't have your health, it's the only thing you can think about sometimes. If you do have your health, you can think about everything else.
Oh, it's so good. It's so true. You see that when people go through, and I'm not there yet, people go through a huge transition. And you're like, man, they are so much happier. Like I remember there was a season I was running every week and I felt great. And you're right. I did not think about it as much. I was
think about it because
I was a much happier mom and wife because I was feeling good about myself and not feeling good as the way I looked, like feeling genuinely
just
healthy, energy, all that. Edie, you're incredible. And I love that literally you could talk about like sewing, being a doctor, keeping care of your plants. And I would listen to any of it. Like you're so real. You're so grounded. And I'm just thankful for all the years that you've put into just blogging and podcasting. And you have a genuine like interest in helping women. And it's comes through in everything that you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for your work in the world. I did a deep dive on Courtney and your amazing podcast. Sister, you have put in the time and I just honor that. Thank you for doing that. It's such an encouragement to all of us who need it. So thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pardon the Mess. As always, we've got more encouragement and resources over at christianparenting.org. And you can also stay connected with us on social media at Pardon the Mess. And if you like this episode, I'd love for you to do two things. Press follow on whatever podcast platform you love, and also be sure to leave a rating so other parents can find us. Remember, you're never alone in this beautiful mess of parenting.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.